And I think the people that we've got at Washington State right now are invested in Washington State and want the best for Washington State and are Cougs and are going to do what it takes. So I feel new energy. I feel excitement. I feel optimism about what's going to happen there versus, however, the last few years, it hasn't felt that way. It has felt like a university that I haven't recognized. It didn't feel like the university that I was at from 2013 to 2017. I think we've got the people in there now who actually give a shit, who actually care about the people who have put their time, energy, and effort into. So I'm excited to see it. So go freaking Cougs.
In today's episode, we have on the all-time Pac-12 leading passer turned NFL quarterback turned Mind Strength coach Luke Falk to talk through the Apple Cup recap, but more importantly, to discuss his new book that is now available for pre-order today, the Mind Strength Playbook. We talked through his thoughts on this current team, the current coaching staff, his optimism for the future of Washington State University athletics, and deep dive into his Mind Strength Playbook. And make sure to watch until the very end as Luke drops another Mike Leach story that he hasn't yet told to the public. And before we get into it, if you'd like to support the Couch GM and what we're doing on this platform, make sure to check out CougFan.com, subscribe to their premium membership for all things WSU Athletics. If you're thinking of buying, selling, or refinancing a property on the West Coast, Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho, or Arizona, make sure to reach out to myself, Connor Webb, as I'm a mortgage lender when I'm not making these podcasts, and it's my goal to assist as many WSU alum and athletes get into the home of their dreams. Interest rates are heading in the right direction for us right now. They are trending downward, so now is a great time to reach out. I'll have a link in the description of this video if you'd like to reach out and connect. And if you're in a sunny state looking to make the move to solar, here's Dylan's contact information. You can reach out and get a quote. And with that, let's get into our episode with Luke Falk. Luke Falk jumping on the podcast for a second time to talk through the Apple Cup and then also to preview something that's massive. Your new book, the Mind Strength Playbook, is officially available today. You can pre-order it, and then the official launch date is on October 24th. So really excited to get into the creation of that from start to finish. But first off, how are you doing? How are things?
I'm doing well. Appreciate you guys having me on. And how are you guys doing?
A little bit better, not hungover anymore from the weekend and the wedding, but a tough one. Tough first Apple Cup for Jimmy Rogers and company. Obviously, 59-24. It for a lot of people, the score seemed a little bit closer than what it was at the end. But yeah, I mean, that was a tough one to watch.
Yeah. I do think, though, that there were some positives that when I was watching. I think Zevi was a real highlight. And then the UW offense, you got to give them a lot of credit because I think they reminded me of the 2016 UW offense. We played them in Pullman, and before we knew it, it was 28-10. They had scored on 4 consecutive drives, and they just had so much offensive firepower. And then, that's the year that they went on and played in the playoff against Alabama. But, that UW team, that offense kind of reminded me of that much firepower. Their quarterback this year is really good. That running back, they got 2 big running backs, that receiver. So, not to take away from what they did. And then I think a highlight for us is I think that we saw a lot of good things from Zevi. I mean, he can really elevate the group. And so I think that's a highlight. So I don't think that's totally people should be hanging their hats and going, oh my gosh, look at us. The last 2 weeks have been miserable. I just want to tell people, look at Leach's first 3 years. He went 3-8, then he went 6-7, then he went 3-8. And then year 4, we took off, and then you had the Leach era. And those are the years that I think people remember, right? From 2015 to whenever he left. But it didn't start out that way. So good things take time. So people just relax. When I was at Northern Iowa as the offensive coordinator for that spring, our head coach forced our offensive staff every day to watch South Dakota State film, their defense, because they're the gold standard. And guess who was leading the charge? Well, Jimmy Rogers. So, it just takes time. And he's, if you look at the facts and the reality of the situation, how many guys did we have in the portal after? Was it 70 plus, right?
Yeah.
75 new guys. Yep.
75 new guys. We don't have a conference this year. You know what I mean? So there's just so many moving parts. Now he's coming in and just give it time. I mean, being around their staff and those guys, they care deeply. They're going to be probably working harder than any staff in the country. And, just like Leach, it took him 3 years. It might take a little bit of time, but I think we've got the right people in the building.
And I want to hear kind of your insight on the quarterback competition. Obviously there was a battle that happened up until the season starting. So, there was the one quarterback that was started the first few games, and now Zevi obviously has the role moving forward. Speaking of mind strength, talk through the advice that you might give to someone who's going through a QB competition or a competition for their position to keep their mindset and their attitude up so that they're ready whenever that opportunity does come.
Yeah, right. There's 2 parts to this I want to kind of divulge on. I was on Twitter. Now that I'm not playing, I go stream and look at that stuff. And I saw somebody had a funny comment. It's like they need to do an investigation as why the Zevi wasn't starting at the beginning of the year. So I thought that was pretty funny. But it made me think of this. Sometimes, in practice, certain guys are phenomenal and they're consistent, and then some guys they just don't play to their whatever their full potential, but they're gamers. And I think maybe that's what happened with Zevi. We've seen him in 2 games now, and he's done a decent job. He's shown us that he's got the it and the grit factor. And so I just wonder, when I was in college coaching, there were some guys that just might not have performed their best in practice, but then they get to the game and it's like, holy cow, where's this guy been? I even felt like that at times within my own career. It's like, I was an okay practice player to a certain degree, but then I got to the game, it seemed I could take it to another level. So I just, when people are saying what's going on here, that might be the situation when it came to the quarterback competition. And I'm excited about Zevi leading the guys moving forward. I think he's got that moxie leadership. I also want to say is not people to pile up on Jackson Potter, because that kid's got a high ceiling. He's got a bright future. It's just, it's been a unique circumstance for him. So my advice to those guys, I even tweeted this out a little bit ago when the beginning of the year happened, not necessarily for the WSU quarterbacks, but just anybody going through a position battle, is to cocoon yourself. To cocoon yourself. What does that mean? It means put the horse blinders on and focus on what you can control. So I was at Washington State, and generally the feedback that you get from a coach is to, hey, when the guys that you're competing against is in, watch his reps, learn from it, take the mental reps. Well, I did that, and all it did was spike my anxiety because I was focused on what he was doing, right? If he had a good play or if he had a superhero play, man, I felt like I had to go match that. So I was just living on what I call this teeter-totter trap. He did a good play. Gosh, I'm in the dumps. He had a bad play. Okay, now I'm feeling good. It gave me the freedom. And I was like, F that. Like, this is hampering with my performance. So what I did is I just cocooned myself. So when he was up, I warmed up. I wasn't watching what he did. I was focusing on, hey, what are my 3 skills I'm going to focus on? I'm stating my affirmations. I was getting my little frankincense ready to roll before I went in there. So I was doing all those things. Even in the film room, I didn't watch the other quarterback at all until Leach made a point maybe a couple times. Then I peeked up. I'm like, all right. But I was focused on what was my script, and I'm drawing out my plays, doing my stuff. Even with, they passed the stat sheets, and they would have those in the quarterback room. Beforehand, I'm the first one to grab it, see where I'm ranking. After that, I pushed it away. I didn't even want to know. I just wanted to focus on what I could control. And that helped me lower my anxiety and increase my performance. And then when my moment came, I'm focused on me, not on somebody else. Because, I was in a number of quarterback competitions, and quite frankly, I was the least talented every time. I was in a quarterback competition. I'm sure you guys remember Peyton Bender, and Peyton Bender had super talent, arm strength. I mean, that guy, he was so gifted throwing the football. Anytime I watch that, it's like, well, I can't do that. I can't fit the ball in the seam like that. So I quit watching. I quit just watching what he's doing. I focused on my strengths, what I could do. And that helped me get to the level. So for them, I would dial in on their process. What can they control? If they're not getting reps at practice, we'll take the script after and go through the practice reps. They got all these shifts of motion. Work on your shifts of motions. What would you be doing in the game, and help them mentally? Anyways, that's a long little rant right there. But that certainly helped me, and I know it helps a lot of the athletes that I work with.
Zevi, 26 for 37, 277 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, had a running touchdown as well. Give us the good of what you saw with Mr. Eckhouse yesterday, over the 60 minutes that you were watching.
Yeah, well, one, I think presence. I think Leach always talked about there's three things they look for in a quarterback. Do you make good decisions? Are you accurate? And can you elevate the group? And I certainly saw him display that third one for sure. It seemed like he really elevated the group, not only offensively, but just there was kind of a whole vibe around. I can't say defensively because given UW really kind of had their way that day. But and then obviously his ability to extend the play. I mean, that one play where he's running left, he contorts his body, throws across field. The announcers were having a heyday with that. I could never do that. That would break my back if I was trying to do it, my hips. But I think those two things really stood out to me as he elevates the group around him. He's got that moxie leadership. He's got that swagger. And then I also think that he has a great ability to extend the play, which, quite frankly, this offense needs right now.
Now, getting into a bit of your book, it's the Mind Strength Playbook. Again, it's available today to pre-order. It comes out October 24th officially on all platforms. Walk us through the journey of creating a book. I mean, obviously your life's work, your career's work of playing through football, you've learned and been on this journey yourself. How did this start? What was that process like?
Yeah, well, I think my English professors and anybody that I had at Washington State are going to be shocked that I wrote a book, given my attention to detail in school and all that. But thankfully, you can pay a good editor to help your grammar and all that stuff. So really what it started for me is in high school and growing up, I didn't have a lot of confidence. I wasn't the most athletic. When it came to the mental side of the game, I was very much lacking. And I felt like you were born with a certain level of confidence and success that you could reach. And that all changed when I started working with a sports psychologist, when I started working with my own mind strength coach. And then I started getting introduced to these other people and these other ideas and these books. And that changed my game fundamentally. When I continued to work on those things on the mental game, my game increased. And that was my superpower. That was my secret sauce to a certain degree. And then when I quit working on it, then we saw the results that happened. It started in 2017. People wonder what happened my senior year. Well, I allowed the trappings of success to get me to be entitled, have victim mindset. I didn't work as hard. I didn't put the effort in. I didn't do enough to be able to create deposits within my teammates and a leadership standpoint. So I didn't elevate the group that well. And so when I didn't use those principles, I victim my way right out of the NFL and my playing career is done. And full circle happens. I get into coaching and I realized that I had such a passion for this mind strength stuff. And I started to create a curriculum. Are you guys familiar with Nick Begg?
Yeah.
You guys know who Nick? So Nick Begg played for Washington State. If you guys ever read the book, The Energy Bus, about just people being positive, you want them on your team. Well, Nick Begg in 2015, he traveled solely because he was that guy. He brought such great energy. Leach wanted to have him along, and then he ended up having a good career at Washington State. But in 2020, after I was done coaching, I was like, you know what? What I really want to do is I see that there's a big need in the world, not even the world of sports, but just the world in general. And I think people are lacking mind strength. And what is mind strength? Well, it's the ability to master your inner world so you can handle anything that the external world throws at you. It's the ability to respond well when adversity hits. It's the ability to be able to elevate and rise to the occasion rather than unravel. And so Nick and I started to create this curriculum, this course. And my idea at the beginning was, man, I'd love to be an adjunct professor. This would be great to go get this at certain universities. They'd adopt our curriculum. And this would be part of the education system. Like, we're going to learn how to develop people to have more mind strength. Because as we know right now, there's so much going on in the external world, right? There's so much going on. And so many people, what do? Well, they focus on the things they can't control. So their anxiety increases. And there's not a lot of people who really know how to work on their mind and strengthen their mind and help and make their mind their friend and their asset rather than their biggest source of interference. So we created this curriculum, and lo and behold, I started coaching it in the private world with quarterbacks. And then I got into college coaching and I started to use that. And then after I resigned from college coaching, I was like, you know what, I have a real passion to write a book. I have a real passion to put this pen to paper. And, so the process really started last year from the actual book writing standpoint. I created a book proposal, sent it out. So I was fortunate enough to get a phenomenal agent, signed with him in the winter, and then just have been on this journey. And really the book writing process didn't take too long. It was probably a month of actual writing and then another month of editing. But the principles and the skills and all that, well, it's been since 2012 when I started working with my sports psychologist and started reading all these other materials and started, this was my passion when I'm eating lunch. I'm turning on something that's helping me be able to develop my mind strength. I'm watching a Tony Robbins video. I'm watching a John Gordon video. I'm watching Tom Brady and his interviews. That's what fires me up because I don't think it's an additive. I think it's the real difference maker. I always tell people talent without mind strength is talent wasted. I've seen it time and time again. Athletes who are the most talented, yet they don't rise to the top because they didn't work on their most valuable asset. And the athletes who do rise to the top, well, they seem to be the ones who are the most mentally tough. Maybe they've got some talent along to go with it. But so that's kind of how the whole book process came about. I think it's the best thing on the market when it comes to this personally, because there's a lot of people who have written books and they're writing based on theory, right? They read something, maybe they see somebody else did something. Well, this is lived experience. This is lived experience as a player, right? I talk about in chapter 3 how I had an unconfident belief system thinking that I wasn't clutch. And what was my process to be able to change my belief system? Because then in college, people knew me as Cool Hand Luke to a certain degree in the fourth quarter, right? We had 7 fourth quarter comebacks. That's among the most in the country during that time. Well, that's one of my most proud stats because I had such a bad belief system before that I wasn't clutch. And when I dive into the process of that, and then I was fortunate enough to play for legendary coach Mike Leach, where there's a ton of Leachisms in there, and there's some stories in there of him. And if you're a WSU fan, you're going to love it. If you're an athlete, you're going to love it. If you're a parent of an athlete, you're going to love it. And if you're a coach, you're going to love it. I just think, and then also any high performer, because mind strength applies to any field, sport, whatever. So, anyways, there's my promo on it. Go get your book.
So 7 chapters, over 250 pages. What was your favorite chapter to put together?
Oh man, that's tough. I think probably the feedback that we've gotten is a lot of people like chapter 6 and 7 the best, which that was kind of shocking. I think chapter 6, yeah, I could see that one, but chapter 7 was shocking a little bit. I think I really enjoyed all of them. Chapter 3 is probably personally my favorite because, in this world, in this work, there's a lot of people, it's somebody else's ideas. These are universal truths that have just been passed down from, generation to generation to generation. And then you find your own way to be able to echo that message, right? That's really knowledge in general. It gets passed down. Well, chapter 3 was one that I designed the exercise. It's original. It's not like I got it from somebody and that's how I came about it. So chapter 3, I really love because it personally, it's like it's got my touch on it from start to finish. And so that's probably my personal favorite one, but really all of them are great. And what I love about them too is they're built in a sequential manner. So it's like they just add on to each other. And some books I see, like, some of these other books, they have one idea and they just keep recircling and recycling just to get back to that one idea. All right, that's great. But rather than it being 250 pages, in my opinion, it should be 50. Like, let's get on with it. This book, each chapter is going to give you something new. Each chapter is going to be able to dive into some principle, some topic, something that's going to help you in your game. Now, you got to read it in sequential order because you need to know this skill in order to build onto this skill. And yeah, we might go back to some, but it's to strengthen the skills that we're talking about. So I'm really excited for people to read it. I think they're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. It's not just prescriptive. There's stories, right? I think it's a very entertaining read. Now I'm biased, but as a player, I would never have said anything like this. As an author and doing what I'm doing right now, I don't know, that I feel compelled to tell people, like, I think people need this. I think right now more than ever, people need mind strength. I think people need to really work on controlling their inner environment rather than letting the external environment throw them around and just, kick them around and then them not be able to reach their full potential because they're allowing all the external circumstances and things that aren't going their way to really limit them.
For reference, those 3 chapters that you mentioned, chapter 3 is reset your internal success thermostat. Chapter 6 is the Falk 5 core mind strength skills. And then chapter 7 is create and sustain a winning environment. I guess I have one question on gratitude. What gratitude practices do you currently have, so that if you're playing good, if you're not playing so good, keeping things level, being grateful for what you do have, not what you don't have. What type of daily, routines do you have?
Yeah, so my daily routine, I'm a simple guy. I don't want to, the more complex you make something, probably the less you follow through on it. So I do 4-6 breathing in the morning. And then the last 30 to 45 seconds, I think of 3 things I'm grateful for. I imagine them, I breathe them in, and that's how I have my gratitude for the day. That's how I start the tone. And then as I go throughout the day, hopefully I have reminders throughout. But something I like to tell my athletes a lot, and I don't know the Bible story great. I can't recite the Bible, but there's one that I heard that I think is applicable to anybody, whether you read the Bible or not. And it was about talents. And, and I'm totally going to botch it here, but I just brought it up with some of my athletes yesterday. But I'm paraphrasing. So all you Bible people out there who know it a whole lot more than I do, relax. So there's 3 people, right? One gets 10 talents. He goes on, he multiplies it, and God says, hey, you've done a phenomenal job. Here's more talents. The other one gets 5 talents, does a phenomenal job, multiplies that. He's got 10, 15 talents, right? God gives him more talents. Well, the other person, the very last person, he gets 1 talent, but he doesn't make anything with his talent. He protects it. He doesn't, kind of looking at the other people. They got more talents. I've only got 1. And then God comes back and doesn't give him any more talents because he wasn't a great steward of the gift that had been given him. So I've got some athletes where they're playing at a lower division school. Maybe the Power 5 is the more talents. Maybe the Group of 5 is the mid-tier talent. And maybe the lower division school is the 1 talent. Well, what are you going to do with that talent? Are you going to show that you're a great steward of that? If you do, guess what? You're probably going to get more. If you take your opportunity, your situation for granted, guess what? You're probably not going to get any more. So if you're the 3rd on the depth chart, if you're the 4th on the depth chart, what do you have? And that can keep you out of the victim mindset and the slippery slope of going into the victim thinking of, woe is me, they've got more than me. And it can get you in a really negative cycle. So like I said, I probably botched that, but I really love that.
Oh, that was great.
That story, because I think it really applies to anybody in life who might look at somebody who's got a little bit more, or maybe you have a little bit little. What are you going to do with it? And if you do great with it, you're going to get more.
One thing I wanted to go back to was, kind of the victim mindset. What were some of the things that you did to get yourself out of that? Or sometimes maybe folks don't even realize that they might be having a victim mindset. So like, what are ways to maybe kind of see those cues and try to work on yourself and be a better individual?
Yeah. Well, for me, early on in my career, I had a lot of support around me. I had, like I said, my sports psychologist, all those people. So you think your environment really can help you. If they're a good environment, they're going to say, hey, quit complaining, quit blaming. Like, what's your role in this? How can you be better? I think parents can serve in that. And also, if your environment's poor, they can also add to that. So for me, it was like the contrast. Early in my career, I had an environment that really called me on my crap if I ever got going down that path. My dad was a phenomenal person in that regard. I would come and I would complain to my dad, like, Dad, this is going on. He said, well, what story are you making up of it? What story are you telling yourself about it? Because, in the book, you're going to read. So there's an old sports psychologist or sports psychology formula. It's called E+R=O. And it stands for event plus response equals outcome. So your event is the thing you can't control, right? Whatever happens to you. Your response is what you can control. And the outcome, you can't control it, but you can highly influence based on your response. And I used that for a long time. I really did. But then I just had this aha on one of these walks, and it hit me. It's like, it's missing something. It's missing a key, element, and it's your perception. So the event happens. So now I go E+P+R=O, because the event happens, and the story you make up about it, the way you perceive it, is then it drives your response. So if you make up an empowering story, you're going to have an empowering response. If you have a disempowering story, you're going to have a disempowering response. And then that leads to, obviously, the outcome you're going to get. So this new formula is phenomenal for me because it checks yourself of what story are you telling yourself. And there's really only 2 that you can probably go down, an empowering one or disempowering one. So my dad, being great in my core 5 and being somebody who's in my corner, stops me in my tracks. What story are you telling yourself, Luke, when the event happens? And can I reframe it and make it into a positive? Because if I look back on my career, the hardest moments in my life, when I've had a phenomenal mindset around it, those ended up being the catalyst for me. Walking on at Washington State, some of the greatest lessons I've ever learned. Had I walked on and been the fifth on the depth chart and had a disempowering mindset, like when people read the first chapter, you want to learn what it's like to be a walk-on? I give you a taste. I take you through. It's not the Rudy story. It's not that at all. In fact, it's a steep climb. In fact, it feels like this. You're scaling the mountain. And if you have the wrong mindset, you're never going to achieve it. You're never going to get to the top. But then later in my career, I didn't have the right environment around me. I allowed that. I allowed, people who could pile on to the victim thinking, oh, you should have got higher in the draft. Coach Leach shouldn't have benched you, this, that, and the other. And they didn't hold me responsible. They gave my power away to everybody else, which I did it. I allowed it. It's like it was everybody else's fault. And if it's everybody else's fault, can I do anything about that to improve my circumstances? I can't, because I've given all my power away. So even like I'm going on a different tangent here, but I was just talking to some of my clients yesterday, and I have some people, and I was the same. It's like, oh, it's the O-line's fault. I'm not getting any time. Well, Coach Leach was a master of taking ownership in terms of, for us quarterbacks. He said, every sack that happens as a quarterback is on you. And that pissed me off, because it's like, can't you see they just went through the A gap. There's nothing I can do about it. But what is he forcing me to do? He's forcing me to look for and find solutions. Because if I'm looking for the solution, then I can change. I can get better. I can get rid of the football. I can find the check down. But if I'm just saying it's the O-line's fault, then I'm always going to stay the same, because it's somebody else. Same thing if somebody drops the ball. It's like, did you have the right pace on it? Did you put it where you needed to? Did you make the right read? How about if somebody didn't get the signal? Well, have you led them properly? Did you give them the clear signal? Did you do a signal meeting beforehand? So if you always take the ownership, you can always improve. You can always look at yourself. You can always put yourself under the microscope and make sure your game gets that much better. Now, I wasn't great with the take the sacks one, because I had 35 sacks a year, so it's like I didn't embody that. I didn't internalize that. But boy, I wish I would have now, and as a coach now, I hopefully can pound that into the athletes that I'm working with, of like, put your game under a microscope. How can you take ownership instead of blame the coach, instead of blame the player, instead of blame the O-line, instead of blame your teammate, the opponent, your parents, the ref? Because if you do that, all your power's gone, and you're just going to be status quo. You'll never get any better. And quite frankly, it's what a lot of young people do right now, right? There's so much external blame going on from young people. It's like, take ownership, buck up, find solutions, and guess what? You're going to find them. You're going to look for the solutions. You're going to find them. And I think that's what I'm most passionate about with Mind Strength, is like just changing the way people think, the perception, not giving my power away. It's not somebody else's fault. I can do something about it. I have agency. I can improve. Anyways.
Luke, who around your life right now that you feel like you've affected in a really good way with the Mind Strength? And I'm not talking like an athlete, somebody that's not an athlete, that might be like a family member or a friend of yours. It's like, hey, Luke, man, like, I didn't play football, I didn't play college sports, but like, I really love what you're doing, and thanks a lot for kind of opening my eyes to that.
That's a great question. So non-client, any of that?
Yeah.
I would say, I'm not going to say my wife, because she doesn't like me coaching. She's already got great mind strength, right? Being a mom and doing all the stuff that she does. But I would say my dad. Every time I'm around my dad makes comments about, just that what I'm doing right now has impacted him and helped him and what he's got going on in his life. He's got a lot of external things that he can't control. And when he starts to dial in and focus on the things that he can and really dial in on his mind strength, it seems like his peace, his quality of life goes up. Another one, and I don't know if he wants me sharing this, but my old coach agent, so he used to represent me when I was a coach. Now I help him with mind strength. And, he's not an athlete, he's not a coach, he's not any of that, but it's helping him in his day-to-day life. It's helping him with his business. It's helping him with where he's at. Another one is, I've had some business people say, well, this is phenomenal principles that I don't even really talk to on a regular basis, but I had them read the book, and he's like, I'm going to share this with my team. because these skills, he calls himself the quarterback of his company, the CEO, because there are so many parallels between business and sports. So, yeah, I'm not going to say these people's names because I don't know if I have the permission to or whatever, but I would say those three in particular. It's like my dad, and my old coach agent, and then one of the business guys is my dad's friend that I sent the book to. Hey, this has really been beneficial in my life.
Is there a book signing lined up yet?
There is. So October 24th, the day it comes out, we're going to do one of those Cougar Collective deals the day before the game. So wherever that's at, we're going to do a book signing there. And then I'm trying to get something set up on game day. I think we play Toledo that week, right? So I'm thinking somewhere Cougar tailgate, maybe set up shop before the game and do that. So I'm pretty excited too. I don't think WSU's announced it. They've told me that it's going to happen. So maybe this can be the announcement right here, but they're going to honor our 2015 team at the Toledo game. So the 2015 team, it's our 10-year reunion with the Sun Bowl. I think that team really deserves that opportunity because those group of guys, they went through, terrible period. A lot of those seniors and people that have been here, and then they really were part of the catalyst that could help the Leach era and the new WSU area that I think so many people enjoyed being a part of. So I think that that group of guys, at least WSU's told me that they're going to do the 2015 team honor that game. So it'd be really fun for me to have the book signing happen, the book launch happen, and then my team right there. Because without those guys, I'm not writing a book. I'm not coaching. I'm not doing what I'm doing. And, it takes all 100 and whatever we had, 115 guys to make this possible. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, really fired up about that.
And is Audible coming also?
That's going to come. I'm going to try to get my best Matthew McConaughey. That'll probably be in like November. I know these young kids, they don't like to read, and even coaches, they're very busy. So I get that. I'll adapt. So I'll do my best Leach impersonations when I'm quoting him in the book, ripping my ass and all that stuff.
No, Luke, you obviously were an air raid quarterback your entire career at WSU. And help me in terms of your high school scheme. Were you mostly air raid in high school as well?
We weren't air raid in terms of terminology and all that stuff, but we threw it 90 something percent of the time. So my high school coach is a high school Hall of Fame coach, phenomenal. One of the best football minds I've been a part of or been in contact with at any level. And so he always adapted his personnel or his scheme based upon what, who he had at quarterback and all that. And my strength was throwing the football. It wasn't running. So we set high school records for the attempts and completions in games and all that stuff. So when I got to Washington State, I had already had a great feel for probably what the air raid was going to be bringing. So I felt like I had a leg up when it came to that type of system and style. Now, my high school system was, more wordy. We had more formations. We had all that stuff. Yet my coach did a phenomenal job of keeping it simple. I still remember plays to this day that happened in high school. Same thing with Washington State. Now it's really ultra simple in terms of, what people see. But at the same time, it's very complex to who you're playing against because of how Coach Leach dressed it up, how we practiced, how we executed. And I can recite the entire playbook. I feel like I've got my PhD when it comes to air raid offense. And, quite frankly, that's my favorite offense. When I was coaching, that was the offense that I was going to be calling because I just think it's the most quarterback friendly offense on planet Earth. There's a reason that anybody that comes from the air raid tree, that quarterbacks have had tremendous success. I'm not naive to think if I go play for another coach or another system, like some of these kids that I work with right now, they're reading over their verbiage and what the reads are. And I'm confused. There's no way I would have succeeded in that system. It's way too much for me. But I do think that you can have the complex. And if you have a really great coach that can break it down and make it, bite-sized pieces and digestible for the quarterback and make it easy on him, then I think you're golden. It's just, just like there are great players out there, there are great coaches, and just like there are bad players out there, there are bad coaches. It doesn't mean based upon where you're coaching from in the NFL or not. I heard Tom Brady say something, really funny. Colin Cowherd was saying, by the second year at Thanksgiving, if the quarterback hasn't produced, then I'm done with them, right? Then I think we move on. And Brady brought up a great point. He's like, well, just as you rank quarterbacks 1 through 32, do you do that with offensive coordinators? Do you do that with head coaches? Do you do that with the people who are surrounding them? And so I think that's something that gets missed on quite a bit is there are some bad coaches out there, plain and simply, or people who haven't developed, who haven't gotten to a skill where they can really help their athlete or help or their player reach the highest level. And they're also phenomenal coaches. And I think, if you're a master in your system and you know how to be able to get the players to get what you want and apply, then you're good. So I know that was a very long-winded answer there based on what
No, no, you're
you
fine.
asked.
Yeah, because I'm trying to tie it to like their current identity right now on offense. And you hear that all the time in football. It's like we've got to create an identity. We have to have an identity. And obviously your guys' identity was the air raid. Throwing the ball 50, 60 times a game. That's not who this staff is. That's not, what this current scheme is. But why do you think they're struggling to find an identity right now? They have not been able to really run the football well. Obviously, we have all these external things, 75 new players, new staff, new offensive coordinator. That all plays a role. But why do you think it's been so tough, for the Cougs early on to kind of get something going identity wise on offense?
Well, I do think all those are factors big time, right? You've got however many new players, you've got a new scheme. It's completely different than any other scheme that they probably played in. Besides, there's a lot of people that he brought over from South Dakota State. Um, so I just think it takes time. Although Leach had a system and identity in 2013, they weren't very good at it, right? So I do
Yeah.
think they have an identity of what they want to do, and also give credit to Jimmy and the offensive staff because they're looking at their personnel and they're going, okay, well, what do we need to do in order to win, right? What we're doing right now isn't necessarily working. That's like they have like their plan A, and plan A is what they did at South Dakota State. They want to be in bigger personnel sets. They want to be able to run the football. They want to shorten the game. Well, right now we don't have the bodies at this time to do that necessarily. Guess what? I bet they recruit for that. But this year, now, because they're great football coaches, they're adapting. They're trying to figure out, okay, how can we win with this group? And, so I give them a lot of credit. Yeah, we don't have an identity at this point. They're trying to find their footing in that regard. They have an identity that they want to. Leach, on the other hand, Leach was just so dang stubborn, which is what makes him elite, is no, we're going to throw the piss at it. We're going to throw it 90 times a game, even if we don't have that identity. I mean, he went to Mississippi State and they had tight ends and they weren't ready for the air raid necessarily. And they weren't really good that first year, but he just sticks to his plan. He stays consistent. And guess what? By the end of his regime there, they win 10 ball games. So I just think, each coach is different in their own regard. Leach, I mean, he was in his lane. He was going to be very true to it, very stubborn in that regard. And it seems like Jimmy is just looking at it right now of, okay, how can we adapt? How can we really mold this offense to fit our personnel? Which, I think is a great plan. And then I think they're going to recruit the guys that they want to fit the mold plan A of what they want.
Are you also surprised by Oregon State this season and their start? They bring in Malik Murphy, a really talented quarterback. Quite a number of players through the transfer portal, and it seems like it just has not been able to pick up for the Beavs over there in Corvallis.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at the record and they're 0-4, yes, but then you look at who they played, then not necessarily. I mean, they play Fresno. That's a good football team. They play Cal to start the year off, and Cal started off the year really hot until that San Diego
Yeah,
State game. That quarterback for Cal, I really like. That kid seems like a good player. Then
yeah,
they go play Texas Tech, who might be a playoff team. Then they play Oregon, who might be a playoff team. So it's not like they played scrubs. And so I just think that they had a really heavy front-loaded schedule. And when you bring in all these new pieces, sometimes, it's like you ever made a snow cone before? You ever go to the snow
yeah.
cone stand? Well, when you're a kid, you make these concoctions, and sometimes they work. The tiger blood with the cotton candy, and then sometimes you get a really grape in this one, and it didn't. Well, when you bring all these new players, personalities, where they come from, transfer portal, sometimes the concoction makes a great team. Sometimes take some time. Sometimes it's not the right identity or not the right culture fit.
Not everybody can be Indiana and Coach Sig. It's kind of wild what they were able to do
That's
last
pretty
year.
impressive. Yeah, that's pretty well. Even this year, I watched that Illinois game because I really like Illinois' quarterback Luke Altmaier, and gosh, dang it, he was under duress the entire game. I felt real bad for him, but Indiana just took it to him.
I have another question about the schedule upcoming. Washington State is now heading on the road for the next three matchups. First at Colorado State, then at 13 ranked Ole Miss, and then at Virginia. They're going to be on the East Coast for a couple games in a row, going East Coast to West Coast, back and forth. What was your experience with travel, with the time zone differences? Obviously, you would say keep things within your control the things that you can. But with the schedule upcoming, what's your advice to the players, and how much of an impact does that travel have?
I mean, honestly, when I was a player, I didn't really think much of it. I mean, we only played. I think my first year we played Auburn, but I wasn't playing, so I was happy that I made the travel squad. I was eating as much fried chicken as I could down Auburn and having a good time. Just uh, anyways. But what's funny about the Auburn game too is I was nervous going the Auburn game. I was the fourth ranked quarterback, and I was like, oh my gosh, what if so and so gets injured and that guy gets injured? I might go in because they're not going to burn Brugman's red shirt. And that almost happened later in the year when we played Stanford. Um, but when we played, we only played Rutgers on the East Coast. Other than that, I think everything was pretty much West. So it's not like it was on the top of my mind. But I don't know. I just think that's external noise. I think you just focus on what you can. It sounds like they might even stay over there for a week in order to try to be acclimated. So I don't know. The coaches are going to do a great job of being able to help them with that. I just think try to keep a consistent sleep schedule, practice, try to practice when you guys are going to be playing, try to keep things as similar as possible so the body can have that circadian rhythm in that regard. But other than that, I just think stick to your routine, your process. It's a couple hours early, great. Are those games early games or are they late games?
So we got
Do we know
4:30
yet?
p.m. is Colorado State, and then you got
Yeah.
9:45 a.m., which is so 9:45 a.m. here, 12:45
Okay.
Eastern for Ole Miss, and then you got 3:30 p.m. Pacific for Virginia.
Yeah, the one, the Ole Miss game. I think the earlier games where you're going on the East Coast, then they're really early for us West Coast people. I think those one, yeah, there is going to be a little bit of a hey, what are we doing this week in order to help us wake up, get prepared, get ready to go? Like we played Portland State, the only early game that we've ever played in my whole career there, and obviously we know how that went. We played like crap. The wind it was blowing sideways, the rain, it was terrible. And it was like an 11 o'clock kickoff. So you were getting up at what, 7 o'clock or something where, I mean, Leach didn't get up till one usually every day anyway. So that was way off his schedule. So I think just trying to get them acclimated to that game time kickoff as best as possible is going to help them. I will say this, very impressive. I was watching obviously the game, and the first drive we had more formations and shifts and motions than probably I had ever done my entire career at Washington State. And I just think I do think those coaches do a good job. Like I said, they can make the complex and probably make it simple for their players because they've done it so long. So it's very impressive to watch that. I'm like, gosh, we got a shift, we got a motion here. Like that would be very challenging defensively to keep up with. And then also the air raid is challenging in its own regard where we come out in the same things and everything kind of looks the same, but then, well, we're running mesh here. Oh, we're running right cross here. And I think that provided Leach a lot of satisfaction that they knew what we were going to do, yet we were able to do it anyways. But I'll give you one Leach story here. It's my favorite him ever ripping us story. It's totally PG. I can feel good about saying. I don't know if I've ever shared it before publicly, so I'll give you guys some new content here. But we're down in Lewiston, and Leach has this like big gash on his nose. So something happened in the middle of the night, right? He ran into the door, is what he said, like, or something happened. So he's pissed off, right? He's pissed off that morning, very, yelling at us. So we mess up something and walk through, and he brings up the whole group. He's like, "Come here, come here." He's like, "I will up down the shit out of you until my eyes get tired." And I got news for you. I just effing woke up, so it's gonna be a while. And I couldn't help but laugh when I heard that a little bit. So, anyways, that was one of my favorite Leech stories in terms of his punishment style because he has this big gash on his nose. He's pissed off, and then his wittiness came out there as well.
Did he acknowledge the gash at all, or is he just like,
No, no, no. And I won't get into the gash or any of that stuff, but you knew he was pretty mad. It was like kicking the hornet's nest, and then somebody messed up. And yeah, that's why I try to teach athletes too. It's like sometimes your coach, we're human beings, and what they say or their delivery of how they say it isn't about you, but it's about what they're going through, right? So there's going to be different scenarios. Sometimes the coach is in a great mood. He's going to be joking with you. He's going to be doing all this. And you might do the same thing. And then on the day that he's in a crap mood, he might snap on you. So I think a great mind strength skill, and I've talked about this before, is what, not how. What's the coaching point I can take? Not how is it being delivered to me? And recognize it's not about you, but it's probably about what they're going through. But if you just say, well, I'm just going to deflect everything and not take the coaching point, well, maybe you missed a valuable opportunity to get better. So I think it's a great skill anybody can learn, but athletes in particular, because coaches, quite frankly, they're human beings. They're going to have good days, they're going to have bad days. And if you can extract the emotion from it and extract and get off the roller coaster, the teeter totter of the high when he tells you, nice job, bud, and pat you on the back, and the extreme low where he's ripping into you, and you can just take the coaching, man, now you haven't given your power away. Now you stay steady. Now you can get better and you remain grounded.
Yeah, my last question. This is something we asked our a former Coug fan writer Adam Lewis last week, and Luke, we're not from the state of Washington. As Coug alums, I'm from California. Obviously, you're from Utah. Connor's an in-state guy. How important is it to keep the Apple Cup going? As we see, just to say it, we see two universities. With when it comes to what each university has going in different directions. You have UW over here making $30 million a year in media right revenue. WSU and the Pac-12 are still looking to lock in, their future media payouts. But this is also a game that divides households. It's important for folks in the state of Washington where, hey, my mom went to UW, my dad went to WSU. From you as a former player, how important is it for WSU to continue the Apple Cup, whether it's, in September, going forward?
I think super important. I mean, it's what people live and die for in the state, in my opinion. I mean, when I first decided I was going to walk on, I had the Apple Cup on my radar. Now, unfortunately, I'm one of the few Coug quarterbacks who never won one, and that still eats me up to this day. Right? It's very important to me, and so I hope that we continue the rivalry. I do think this is just the sad state of college football. I just think with all the transfers going on now and totally the different conferences and stuff, I do hope that it continues to be a meaningful game for the players as much as it is for the fans and us and people watching it who understand the history of the game. I mean, because we go from us being in the Pac-12, it being the last game, and when I was playing, we had 2 times where we play them. If we win, we're in the Pac-12 championship. We didn't get it done, but at least the stakes were extremely high. I would rather that, and so now you're playing in September, and I think some players where the allegiance to universities is even down. It's not like I was watching Sunday Night Football last night, and I'm seeing guys who had transferred a couple times. I'm like, well, are you going to list off the 4 schools you played at, or are you going to pick the one that you like best? So the allegiance to the school is even down. So then the rivalries that come with it and the history that comes with it go down. So my hope is that, the people that are in power, the coaches, all that stuff can really make it important. I know we will at Washington State. I certainly know we will. And, we'll see how UW does. And hopefully that they don't just think that Oregon's now their new rivalry. And that's the case. But can't control that. Hopefully we go out, have a good game plan, and have the chips fall where they may. So anyways, but once again, credit them. I got to give credit where credit's due. That offense, really good. They're really good players, and they've done a nice job. And I know that with our staff, I feel really confident with what they're doing. and I'm excited about what's going to happen on the Palouse. I think we've got the right people. I think in the past we had people just like there are some coaches out there who they use the university that they're at as a stepping stone and a ladder to get where they want to get to. I think we had certain individuals who did that within our department and our university as a whole. And had we had people maybe that had more Coug invested interest, that we might not be in this type of situation. But I do think that's in the past now, so we can't do anything about it. And I think the people that we've got at Washington State right now are invested in Washington State and want the best for Washington State and are Cougs and are going to do what it takes. So I feel new energy. I feel excitement. I feel optimism about what's going to happen there versus, however, the last few years, it hasn't felt that way. It has felt like a university that I haven't recognized. It didn't feel like the university that I was at from 2013 to 2017. So I'm excited about what we've got at Washington State. I hope the fans can stick around and have the grit and the just see what's on the horizon to a certain degree. Because if you get around the building and all that, and the people that are there, they're fighting their ass off right now for Washington State. They want the best for Washington State. And I feel good about the people who are in charge and are making that happen.
I will say the Cougar Collective actually tweeted out after the loss in the Apple Cup that this year compared to prior years has been a lot different as far as donations are concerned. In the prior years, after losses, you would see significant drop-offs with 1890 club members and just one-off donations. After both of the losses that we've seen this year, donations have actually been up, and 1890 club members have actually risen. So, Coug fans, they're putting their money where their minds are.
Yeah,
and they're getting behind this team.
That's awesome. I'm just telling you, like, I have a pretty good pulse on what happens at Washington State. I am way more involved this year, you'll notice, because I'm excited about who's there. Whereas the years prior, I haven't been. Right? I came around here and there every now and then because I wanted to go back. I wasn't doing what I could to help lift the university to a certain degree because it didn't feel like the place that I went to. It didn't feel like the Washington State that I knew. This does. Although we have harder circumstances, I think we're going to get through it. And you know what? It's one of those deals. It's like I talked about at the beginning. You're the walk-on. What perception do we have? Are we going to create a disempowering story for ourselves and lead to a disempowering response? I don't think so. I think we've got people in there who are doing the best that they can, creating an empowering story or frame, and it's going to lead to, I think, good results for us. So, anyways, I'm excited about what we've got. I'm going to do what I can to be able to help out. I'm excited to go to Washington State and have the book launch there. I think Coug fans are going to enjoy the book that's coming out. If you want to know behind the scenes of kind of that Leach era, you're going to get some stories that you haven't heard before. You're going to get some insights that can help you in your day-to-day life. And if you've got any athlete in your household, I just think there's not a book out there who's somebody who has real life experience, not somebody who read it, not somebody who went to psych class and said, "Oh, it's a pretty good theory right there." No, I've gotten hit in the mouth. I got hit so hard that my helmet was stuck in the ground at one point. I couldn't get it up. What do you do then? Right? Is the theory going to work? No, you got to go to real life application that can help you get through that. So anyways, that's my spiel. Go Cougs. I think we're in a good spot. I like the people that are there. And I'm just grateful to have been a part of that university, and to Leach, who gave me an opportunity, for Bill Moose, for going out there and really creating tremendous energy and momentum, and for the equipment staff that are there. There are great people at Washington State. And I think that was the thing that pissed me off a little bit too with prior people. Is like those types of people got fired, got moved. It's like they didn't care. They didn't care. They didn't care about the university. They didn't care about the people who were there. They didn't care about the people who put the time in. They didn't care about the history. They didn't care about Washington State in general. So I think we've got the people in there now who actually give a shit, who actually care about the people who have put their time, energy, and effort into. And so I'm excited to see it. So go freaking Cougs.
Go Cougs. It's also really exciting to hear one of our greatest athletes and quarterbacks, talking like this for WSU, and you being out and about and back in the mix with everybody, writing this book, your help with the Coug Collective, your help with, even the administration side of things with the school. It's so nice and refreshing to have you, on the front lines for Cougs. So thanks a
I
lot.
appreciate it. Yeah, I don't know how much of a help I am, but like I said, I'm fired up who's there. I'm just happy to be part of the history there, the rich history. I can't say I'm one of the greatest athletes there at Washington State because I won a very
Well,
good
we
athlete,
can.
but I was really fortunate enough to be part of amazing teams, amazing people who really gave it their all for Washington State and are still there. Like I love going back and I see Milton, JP, I see Bill and Bobby, I see just all these people. And anyways, it's such a special place. I love Pullman. I love Pullman. I love the Palouse. I love Washington State. And I think that we're going to be on the right side of history as we continue to push forward, have grit, and have a North Star, and we're going to get through this.
Love it. Thank you as always, Luke, for jumping on. Make sure to go check out the Mind Strength Playbook when it releases. Go pre-order it today. Again, thanks, Luke, and go Cougs.
Thanks, guys. Go Cougs. Appreciate it.
Go Cougs.